Applying to a college can be stressful, especially researching different institutions and deciding which one to apply to. For prospective students, YouTube is often a great place to start to get to know a college. Flat Hat Online provides a 3-part series where we talk to students, the Office of Undergraduate Admissions, and the Student Transition and Engagements Program to show potential applicants everything they need to know about applying to William & Mary. In the first installment, we talk to the Office of Undergraduate Admissions to see what they're looking for in their perfect candidate and what makes a good application.
What is the admissions department looking for this year when building the class of 2028?
Obviously very excited, first off, to be getting into the application reading process, so that's just started for us. I don't know that it really changes much from year to year. I think we're looking for kids who are excited about joining a vibrant and inclusive community that we have here at William & Mary. And based on that, we still have some general guidelines in terms of what we're looking for in terms of the in-state versus out-of-state percentages. So we're generally looking at a 60% in-state group and a 40% out-of-state group. Beyond that, we want to fill out all 115 of our majors and minor programs and get kids who are excited about our 475 different clubs and organizations and our 23 varsity sports and 40 different club teams and all the other things that happen here at William & Mary and the arts and other areas.
Yeah, just some good new members of the community. That's really what we're looking for.
What makes a good application?
Our primary focus when we're reviewing the applications is ensuring that these students can be successful here at William & Mary. You have to work hard to make sure that you are doing well in your academics. And so I think that's when we're first looking at an application, the first thing that we're keeping in mind is, will this student be successful? Ultimately, that usually comes down to an academic lens to start, because you know to have a full and complete, vibrant experience, being successful, at least with the academics, is going to give you a great baseline to work from there. So we do spend a lot of time looking at the transcript, recognizing that the students spent the most time in their high school years, in their classes, and on their coursework and grades and all of that, and then expand from there. So that's usually the first area of the application that we dig into, and then looking at extracurricular activities, because as we know, our student population here is really engaged and really caring and passionate about everything that they do. So we want to find prospective students that align with that as well. But I'd say in terms of focus and priority throughout a review season, that's what we're kind of beginning with.
What is the best piece of advice you could give to a student that's considering applying to William & Mary?
Yeah, I always want to make sure that they feel comfortable being their authentic self in the application. You know, I sometimes feel some kids worry that they have to think about what the school wants to hear versus just being who they really are and letting that shine through in that application. That's really going to, I think, benefit them most. Being who they are is just going to make that application seem a lot more personable and really shine through what their skills and talents and abilities are.
And I think we often talk about, and students often hear the term holistic, and thinking that they have to be this whole perfectly round applicant. But really what we're looking for is to create a holistic class. And so we want students who, to David's point, are angular and have depth in the areas that are of interest to them and make them unique and different from their peers, because pulling all of those pieces together is how we build a vibrant community. So having students who are passionate about whatever it is that they're passionate about and having a willingness to share that with others is something that we love to see. And that's sometimes intangible to really sight and see in an application. So it's hard sometimes to give that advice to students, but it often comes out of just be yourself and be okay with digging into what you want to dig into.
There's been a few changes in the admission process at William & Mary. Number of students waitlisted has gone up and the acceptance rate has gone down, and that might cause some concerns for students who want to go here. What are some reasons for these trends, and what would it mean for a potential applicant?
Yeah, I think we've actually tried to be really conscious about not growing the wait list too much, and I think if the stats are showing that, I think it's probably just because we've had more applicants in the last few years. So more applicants, we've had more denies and more wait lists.
And I think some national trends that we're seeing are students are applying to more schools. So whereas, several years ago, the students maybe would have applied to 3 or 4 schools. Now we have some students who are applying to 7 to 8 schools, which is a lot. So we're, a lot of different schools, William & Mary included, are kind of seeing that increase reflected in our applicant pool too.
Does that mean the admissions department is being kind of more cutthroat with the competitiveness and how good an application needs to be?
I don't know that that's necessarily changed. I think something too, if you dig down into our statistics over the years, and something that is truly impressive, really, from the pool that we've been seeing over the past few years, is that the criteria of the incoming class has remained
pretty consistent.
Really consistent, surprisingly so. Even with some of the variation in the size of the pool and where the applicants are coming from. I think that also has to do with students getting to know William & Mary and realizing that there is a certain type of student who would thrive here, and self-identifying in some way. So I don't think I'd say that it's gotten more competitive, just that the students are a little more self-selecting, and that, like I said, students are applying to more schools.
Is it really that much harder to get in when you're out of state?
Statistically, it's going to be more challenging. I mean, when you think about it, obviously there's 49 other states kids can apply from, and they're applying to a smaller percentage of the pool of the entering class. So yes, it's statistically more challenging.
Yeah, so I always tell students early decision should be an indication of your interest, not as a means of getting in. And I think that's something that is really beneficial for students to keep in mind, because it is a fantastic tool, and this really goes for any institution that has an early decision option. It's a fantastic tool to indicate a student's interest, that this is my #1 choice. If I'm accepted, I will enroll. That's a very attractive thing to admission offices and universities, and it's really telling that the student has done their research and recognizes that this is the community that they want to be a part of. So again, a very attractive thing for sure. But I would say students need to be aware that it is a commitment, it's a binding commitment that they're making, and that they only have this tool to use at one school.
Probably 35 to 40% of the entering class has been early decision this past year.
I'm an in-state student concerned about costs. How can I get a decent amount of financial aid?
The great news is if you're in-state, we'll cover everything that's need-based. I mean, if you have high need, low need, medium need, your aid will be covered. And in fact, William & Mary has been the most affordable of the in-state schools for the lowest income students in Virginia. So, we pride ourselves, I think, and that's one of the things we really love about working here, is that we can have an opportunity for any student in Virginia, regardless of their income level, to be able to come here and to have it be affordable, which is really important. So we have actually also one of the highest graduation rates among limited income students as well.
And I think some tips too, and it should be universal, but that students are filling out the FAFSA. Even if, and this is something that we'll hear a lot in certain areas or regions or with certain populations of students, of like, well, I know I'm not going to get any aid, so I'm not going to take the time to fill out the FAFSA. It is always a good idea to fill out the FAFSA, regardless of what a student might think their familial situation might be. Especially this year, as there's some changes in the FAFSA, so it might change some of the aid options for students that they wouldn't have realized they would have been given some aid previously. The other piece with ours is we have the CSS profile. So those two pieces together are what make a robust aid package for our incoming students. And while they do take some time and effort, it's time well spent. And I think that's usually my advice to students, is just take advantage of the tools that are there for you.
The most common question I got or I saw was students would come on and post their stats saying I have a GPA of this, my extracurriculars are these, I took these AP classes. So a lot of students are concerned about their specific stats and whether they have a chance of getting in. And so if you were to be completely honest, what would you tell a potential student who would have these sort of concerns?
Well, you can't get in if you don't apply. That's rule number one.
Rule number one.
But also remember that we're humans and we're here to help. So it's perfectly fine to send some information. Now, it's always difficult to give somebody a strong sense without seeing the whole package, but we will certainly try to be transparent with people about whether they fit into our pool or not.
That is a really tough question to get just out and about, because oftentimes these GPAs, we have so many questions as soon as a student asks that. So, which is not what they want to hear. They want to hear an easy, like, yeah, you're competitive, or no, you're not, right? That's the goal. But the way that we review applications is so much deeper than just those raw statistics, and will always be so much deeper than just those raw statistics. So I think my note to students that are asking those questions too is give credit where credit is due, and that we do want to review the complete application that they put time and effort into, and that oftentimes, again, like the GPA is a perfect example. Well, is it weighted? Is it unweighted? And does that include some heavy rigor? What has that? Is there been a trend over the years? That's just one number that is really not the best representation of your full 4 years without some of those additional pieces of the application, specifically the transcript. So it's very hard to give a complete, honest and realistic read or review for a student with just those raw stats. That's why we spend the time that we do in the application review process, because we know that so much more goes into that, and that is where we get to really build a community and build a class with intention and purpose by looking at that full package rather than any just few raw statistics.